So last week was fellowship.
Jesus Christ.
This week is forgiveness.
Hello and welcome to A God We Could Believe In, a frank and honest look at Christianity as we find it today. We're going to be looking at the things the church says and does that are embarrassing, confusing, or even downright offensive. In other religious contexts, your questions might be forbidden, but not here. So whether you're a lifelong churchgoer with the scars to prove it, or you've never entered a church and are just interested in the debate, this is a safe space for you. In that spirit, we're diving headlong into questions of sex and relationships, covering topics from marriage and purity to sexuality and masturbation. Across this series, we'll be talking about issues of sexual relationships, abuse, gender and identity, so listener discretion is advised. Please look after yourselves. For this introductory episode, we're sharing a little about what's brought us together and why we're so keen to put our heads above the parapet on this thorny and divisive theme. I'm Tim Woodson, and today you'll meet practical theologian and soon-to-be retired Baptist minister Simon Hall, biblical scholar Charlotte Naylor Davis, and as a special treat for this series, we're joined by poet, ex-social worker, and daughter of Simon, Rachel Hall. Well then, I am sat in the room with four people. I'm one of the four. We've got Simon Hall, ex-Baptist minister.
Soon to be ex.
We've got Charlotte Naylor Davis, biblical scholar. We've got Rachel Hall, daughter of Simon.
That's my one credit.
And poet. And how would you describe your career, Rachel?
Well, I used to be a social worker. I'm no longer a social worker, but I'm looking to train as a therapist.
Trained as a therapist. Wonderful. I am also Tim Woodson, and I am not sure what my credibility is for being in the room. I've produced podcasts before.
Yeah.
No, I have a marketing background, and I have been in church all my life and thinking about what it would be like to not be in church. Anyway, so this project came out of a project that Simon has run for a number of years called Cafe Theology. Do you want to tell us about that, Simon?
Yeah, that came out of basically, sorry for people that are not theology nerds, but it came out of a theology nerd group in our church where I said, could we do this in a way that was more accessible? And in Leeds at the time, there was things like Café Scientifique and Café Philosophique, which is a way that academics share their ideas in more accessible ways, literally by going to a cafe and talking about it. So it was really a very simple thing. We nicked the French title to make it sound cool, but the motivation behind it was normally when Christians try and talk to people who are curious, normally it feels like they're trying to argue people into agreement. I'm going to show you by force of my argument why you should agree with me, whether it's the existence of God or, the existence of hell or whatever. It's a very combative thing. I'm in some kind of debate, except normally I'm the only one that gets to talk. And I thought, well, I find that personally really off-putting anyway. I just thought often the kind of things that we're trying to convince people of, I don't even think are the most important things anyway. So if someone has a question, and all of the events came with a question, like one event was, is God good for women? The answer to that question and to all the questions is, yeah, maybe, I don't know, it's just, And so it was just a place, I would get a really world-class person to speak, like Charlotte. They would only have 20 minutes, and then people would be able to talk for 20 minutes, chat among themselves, and then we would all chat together. It was just a really nice format. They started selling out, and then COVID came, and it became quite hard to do. And coming out of COVID, and I got COVID and got quite ill, I was just thinking, well, how could we carry on this conversation in a different way? And that's how we got to this podcast.
Because I met you mainly through, I think, Café Theology, and it probably came noteworthy to you after I bought up something like an eighth of the tickets to bring my small group along. I was leading a small group in a city centre evangelical church, but also had a love of fringe theology. So I decided to try and marry the two, which I think most of the group were a little bit nonplussed at why I'd brought them, to a very heavy topic on, I think it was Tom Ord.
Oh, wow. Okay. So if I remember rightly, the question was, when I pray, what is God doing?
Yeah. Which we all, didn't not talk about, but I think there were people who'd been in the church for like, a year, 6 months at that point. And we're very much not quite there for that conversation. But anyway, that's where I met you, and we got chatting and would continue these conversations.
Well, I spoke at Cafe Theology. It isn't how I know Simon. I know Simon because I was looking for a church, and I looked for a weird one. And I found Revive. But then Simon very quickly was like, you could come and talk at the things I do. So I've had Cafe Theologique background. As I did the last one. I either headlined it or killed it. One of the two. About female stories, actually, about how we tell women's stories in the Bible, and how that sort of stuffs us all, really. It's partly the way we talk about women. So that gives you a bit of an idea of who I am as a scholar, I think, and where what I bring, I guess, to this, which is I'm a biblical scholar by training, but I am, in fact, now a minister for a church. The church that Simon set up. I guess it's not your church anymore.
Jesus'
church.
Sure.
Strange group of people that I work with in Leeds. I keep saying strange. They're lovely, but Revive is not a kind of... it's not a normal church. It doesn't act like... We do a lot of discussion. It's very based around everybody having ideas and opinions and being able to question and query. So that's been a big journey for me.
And this first series we're doing is particularly about sex and relationships. We've given ourselves an easy one to start with. But this also partly came out of a conversation that, Rachel, you were having with your dad, Simon.
Yeah, I was going to say I know Simon from birth.
I was there.
He's just always been around.
Yeah, for your entire life's work, Charlotte, is my whole life.
Yeah.
So I am Simon's daughter. I guess what I bring to the table, as well as brains, is my youth.
Yes, that's right. You're the voice of the young here.
The young, yeah, but I'm not even that young, which is what's really sad about it. Anyway, I was having a conversation with Dad about, and I'm sure I'll talk about it in depth later, but kind of a conversation that I was having with my university house in COVID around sex and shame, and all of us girls were Christians. And as soon as we kind of started having this conversation, it was like a dam broke. And I told Dad about this and was like, yeah, we were all just saying, like, we just all have, like, deeply entrenched shame. And we started talking about the fact that a lot of those girls, and myself included, had been part of a big kind of student church in the city where we went to university, and all of us had kind of consequently left. And we were talking about, like, oh, that's really interesting, like, why have you left? And these are people like me that grew up in church, and I did go to the aforementioned weird church. And what was it that was taking us away from this place that was once home, was once, a place that we wanted to be in? Like, we were all kind of saying we still had a deep love for Jesus, and we all still held faith, but we didn't feel that organised religion and the way it was being presented to us was serving us. So I guess that was my, like, hook into this of, like, actually, I think myself and my friends would really benefit from a space of, like, I don't know about marriage, actually. And, the church is, like, deeply entrenched in patriarchy. Like, that really puts me off. And I think having a space to be able to talk about the things that we were all feeling but didn't necessarily always have language for is kind of what drew me to do this.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's interesting talking about that these conversations started in COVID, because I think that's been a very significant part of all of our journeys at this point. So I stopped going to church. Obviously, the church went online during COVID, but it coincided at a point where me and my wife were kind of moving away from the church. She'd worked there for about 10 years and had just left, and then we kind of gone along to a few services. Then COVID happened, and I think that begun a period of reflection that we're still going through. But it just means that at the moment we don't feel like particularly like we are able or want to go to church at this point, and we're still sort of working through the reasons for it. And I know for Simon and Charlotte, I think from a health point of view in particular, that COVID was significant. Yeah,
I have a diagnosis of having long COVID. Well, it kind of came and it never went went away. That's the reality of it. We're all in different ways people who have things that we walk with, and I think if you want to walk with us, you'll hear about our lives and how that's shaped the way that we think about the world. I don't think it would be fair to say that we're all bitter and twisted at God because bad things have happened to us, but we're definitely not your average standard people. I just want to briefly mention the name, because it's not a very good name for a podcast. It's really long. And no one's going to be buying any T-shirts with AGC...
AGWCBI.
Yeah, that, whatever it is.
AGCBWI. Wait.
No,
yeah.
AGW.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, that. So...
Proving our point.
It's we were originally going to call it A God We Can Believe In, but it turns out there's an obscure book of Jewish theology called that. So our title is even more tentative. We're even less confident in saying that we can believe in it. We're saying we could believe in this God, and that's kind of where we're at. Over hopefully what will be many series, we are offering what we've learnt in a way that we hope you will find helpful. If not, we won't cry. But we do believe that there is out there a God that we could believe in.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to point out that we are, as well as being a diverse bunch, where there's a good 10 years between at least all of us, maybe a little bit more. So Rachel, you're the youngest. I'm about 10 years older than Rachel. Charlotte's about 10 years older than me. And Simon is about 10 plus years older than...
Steady on.
I don't know how old Simon is.
I'm 57.
And I'm 47.
So yes, exactly 10 years.
Yeah.
So
between
my apologies.
Yeah.
I thought you were older than that, Simon.
Thank you.
You're just so
Because of
wise.
how much
you're
wisdom.
Yeah, you're so
I've
wise.
got.
So wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also we all know each other's ages really well.
Yeah, so I'm 25, just for reference.
Yeah.
All right, 34. If you're doing the math. Fine.
We've got a range of gender expressions in the room, is what I would say. We'll talk about that in a number of different episodes, so we don't need to go into it, but we've got different ways of experiencing gender.
Gender and sexuality is diverse, yeah.
We are all white, which is kind of one of the things that we are not diverse on. But what you're getting is a spread of different experiences with church and teaching and different routes through it. And I think that's really valuable in the discussions that we're going to have. That, you know, we've got Simon's kind of journey in church ministry, and then we've got a journey of being in churches and growing up in churches, and kind of my odd detours through academia. And so we've got a diversity of ways through this stuff and wrestling with it that we all want to talk about.
And I think one of the things that I always appreciated about Café Théologique was that it was a space where you could be just very honest. So if you didn't agree with something, you could just say, I don't think there's any merit to that. And that was completely a space to do that. And I think that's one of the things that will translate over to this podcast, that we will be as honest and open about the Bible as we find it and about faith as we find it. So yeah, if you're looking for people to toe a party line, then we are not those people.
Thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, then please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss another one. New episodes are released every other Monday, and our first full episode is now available, where we'll be sharing even more about what we've learned in church on sex and relationships, and what that meant for our early relationships. If you'd like to support the project, make sure you share it with friends, family, pets, etc., and you can patronise us, the good kind, by subscribing to agodwecouldbelievin.substack.com. Here you'll also receive bonus episodes and regular reflections from Simon and the team, right to your inbox. You can also message us with questions at agodwecouldbelievin@gmail.com or via our socials. We will see you again very soon.